um, some of these charges involving the president that the special prosecutor Mueller had been working on. I know the Southern District of New York either yesterday or one day this week came out and said the president was should be charged with um, the one the charge of fraud when he was involved with the two girls, the two dancing girls, which he paid $130,000 to each, and supposedly he had sex with both of them. But the idea of the 130 was for them not to tell their story to anybody. I don't know, for a certain length of time until after the election took place. So supposedly that's fraud because the 260,000 that he gave them was not put on his report as a expense, immediate expense, or in expense for the campaign when he filed those papers. Um, Now, so that made it look like he had a real clean record during the election when the people voted. And the one thing about the charge is if he wouldn't have given the girls 130 each to keep their mouths shut, then these girls, from what the politicians are saying, would have opened their mouth and told the public exactly what happened. That the one girl had sex with the dancer had sex with Trump one night all night, and then the other girl had sex with him, I think, for about a month at different times. Because if that would have come out at the time of the election in 2016, I mean, that would have gotten rid of a lot of voters. And you could say, well, a lot of people don't care and this and that. But a lot of people do care. And your older women, white and black, I don't think would vote for Trump if they heard those stories about the sex and also about getting that money, which the 130,000 each. I mean, that's not like giving somebody $10 or $25 or $100. That's a pretty good sum of money for them to keep their mouth shut for a certain length of time. Like, I don't know the exact time, but maybe a year or 2 years or whatever, so that the election was over and then Trump would have gotten in, and then go down the line, way down the line, then they can start talking, who cares? The election's over. But the Southern District Court in New York said that was fraud for paying them to keep their mouths shut during the time of the election, 2016, and then also not filing your report with your expense report with that money on there and their names, because you're supposed to file all your expenses on that report and who you paid it to. And that report goes into Washington, and that's a public item. That means if you're putting $100,000 into the ocean for some reason, you're supposed to put it down. But that could be fraud too, because what does that have to do with getting elected? They want to see people getting elected, and they don't mind if you go out and knock on doors, or just like we're doing this video here, or trying to get money, calling people, things like that. That's the way to get money for the election and spend money on. But this thing with 130,000 each to two girls, so they won't talk about the election, that's completely different from going out and begging people for money for the election. Because you're giving them money so they'll keep their mouth shut for a long period of time. So when we have the vote, nobody will know about these girls, because that's what the money's for. The money's not for the sex so much. The money is for them to keep their mouth shut for a certain length of time and not tell anybody about the situation that occurred. And I think the two of them occurred sometime before the actual election when he was running. And now, that Clinton really got more votes than Trump in the election, but she still didn't win. Now this could have hurt, and this could have been the election. But the thing about it is, they say it was fraud. The expenses weren't put down, and that's the Southern District Court in New York. Now, the other thing, and that's happened before, really, excuse me, but Nixon, was impeached, and then he got out, and another person, he resigned, and then the vice president took over. So if Trump decided to get out of this, which I doubt, the vice president would take over if he wanted it. If he didn't want it, then I think it'd be the Speaker of the House would take over. But Paul, or I'm trying to think of who that would be, but that's we'd have to figure that out when the time comes. But what I'm talking about today is January 2nd or January 10th or whatever, when all the new Democrats coming in, and they'll have a 40-man over the Republicans to vote in the House and Senate. Those 40 have to decide right now, are they going to vote for impeachment for Trump based on what we're talking about? If the answer is no, then they should drop out right now. That's my opinion. Because we're not looking for people to get in there that'll do nothing. And I think that these are grounds for impeachment. And another thing is, while a president's in office, you can't charge him with nothing. He can't be charged with nothing. I guess he can go out and start shooting people. He can't be charged. Why? Because he's in office, he's president. That's why you have to move to the impeachment process. And if these 40 that are going to give commanding lead in the House, if they're not going to vote to impeach, then put your guts together and resign right now, and let your runner-up in all those states. These votes were so close, they were fighting over a lot of those elections in the different states. Let the guy behind you, let him go in, resign, let that second man in the votes, because some of those votes, especially in Florida, went on and on. It was ridiculous after a while, and they were saying fraud and all that. But if you're not going to vote for impeachment, now this is my opinion, don't go in. Don't be there in January. Let another person come from your state and go there that will vote for impeachment, because this is important, and it's real important. And somebody said, well, why should we impeach him for just having sex with a few girls and giving them money and things like that? Why don't we wait till we get something big like this lawyer Cohn, or a lawyer or whatever? They're going after him. Why do we have to go with these girls that are sort of, I don't know what these girls are supposed to be, but these girls are the same as the girls that are all over the country. I mean, they just have a certain profession, job that they're doing, and there's nothing you can do about it, whether you like it or not. It's not our business. That's what they do. Now, so this thing will start right after January 1st, and those 40 seats are very important. In fact, the Democrats should go around right now and start taking polls of the people going in that are going to vote for impeachment. And the ones that aren't going to vote for impeachment, they should sit down and talk to them and say, you're better off that you would resign right now and then maybe run again later, and let's bring up somebody else, period. And another thing, they're talking about when to start impeachment. I think you have to start it immediately after January 1st, because it's going to take some time. It's going to take several months. And if Trump wants to fight it, now, if he resigns, that's one thing, but I don't think he will. I think whatever you do on impeachment, he's going to fight. And then that brings up another thing about the people that'll be running in 2020. Naturally, those people in 2020 they won't know what to do. They won't know how much money to get, and a lot of people won't give them money. Why won't they give them money? Because they can say, well, I don't know if Trump's going to run or not. Why should I give you a nickel?
Right.
And so that's another thing. If Trump was impeached and he resigned, then I think these people can get money for the 2020. If Trump fights it, which he can fight and fight hard, I mean, that's his business, then it's going to be very hard for people to run 2020 and come up with money. Thank you.